Good afternoon, Vanessa Baker here, and today for my Facebook Live I'm going to make a Christmas card. This is, I think, my first Christmas card this year, so we'll end up making quite a lot of Christmas cards by the end, so it's always a fun time around this time of year, and using different colours and different things than we use the other times of the year, so it's really cool. So I'm just going to flip my camera. Oh, now I'm hoping that my microphone is on and working. Turn that down. Okay, so today I'm using the Winterly Treetops bundle for my card, and I've actually been inspired by a card from, now I think it was Vicky Boucher. She's a demo in Australia, and she posted a card, just double checking here that she posted a card yesterday, I think it was, and it was like a Nordic-inspired card where she'd used the sort of the theme of like wood and white together, and she'd used the Reindeer Fun stamp set. I don't have the Reindeer Fun, but I loved her concept, so I'm doing mine with the Winterly Treetops. So this is the Winterly Treetops stamp set. It's a cling stamp set, and I've actually used this a bit already for doing other types of cards, and this is the die set that goes with it, and the bits that are missing are the ones we're using today, but there is a die to cut out the wee bird. I think I have actually shown you a card in the paper, the DSP that comes with this set has different birds that you can cut out with the dies. It's not that sheet, it's another sheet. But yeah, some of the dies will fit around the birds on the paper, so that's always handy. They're pre-coloured for you, and the papers are really pretty. Right. So I've gone ahead and made my card base. So that's just a regular size card base, folded in half. And I'm actually making the card today in landscape. I tend to make a lot of portrait facing cards that way. So it's always nice to change things up and do one long ways instead. And then I've got a piece of the Country Woods Designer Series paper, and this one is great for these sort of wood look backgrounds that really go with this style of card. And you'll see I've got it just longer than my card base because I'm planning to rip one edge. So if you cut it to the normal size and then rip your edge, obviously it's going to be smaller. So I've left it long to do that ripping. And then the way you rip, I have fingernails, but even if you don't, you can sort of put a thumb there, and then I just rip it towards me. And I do see some people that just get this end and start tearing, and you can end up with it going sort of quite a way off, where I'm sort of aiming for a fairly straight tear, but I want to see these large patches of white. So I'm just moving my thumb down as I'm tearing so I can control how much is coming off. And then I'm actually going to have that on that side. So you'll see now I've got my even border around, and then I've got my torn edge. So I can go ahead and stick that on. Right. And then I've actually gone ahead and cut out now this die comes in the Winterly Trees die set, And it's quite interesting. It has all these branches sort of coming in, and it creates a frame. So I've run it through the die cutting and emboss machine, but I've left it in the die to show you. So before I've run it through the machine, I've just done a small border all the way around, even. And then when it's cut through the machine, it's cut out. And you just have to carefully, so if we take the die off, it is a little bit fiddly getting it out just because you've got these sort of spiky pieces coming through. So I just wiggle it and push them all in one direction. So I'm sort of pushing everything up. I found that was a good way to get it out of the die without tearing anything, because the last thing we want to do is tear off any little. And the last bit, it sort of comes freer near the end. So yeah, just take your time and carefully remove that piece. And then this part here, I've got a plan for that. So keep hold of that. We're going to use that later on for another technique. Okay. Now I wanted, because I'm using the birds and I plan to colour them, I wanted a layer behind my wood patterned paper. So I've gone with a piece of basic white, and this has been embossed with the Fern 3D embossing folder. So it gives a lovely leafy fern type pattern. And I just wanted a wee bit more detail because this is quite detailed. I thought the one that comes with the set is the Birch 3D folder, but the lines of that are more spaced apart, and I wanted a bit more detail on this piece. So I've gone with this fern folder instead. And I'm going to tear, so I've got it the height of my paper here, so it's going to go on like that, but I'm going to tear both sides. And it's quite interesting when you tear. So I've embossed it first. If I did the tearing first and then did the embossing would then go over the tear lines. So I purposely did it, embossed it first, and now I'm tearing it. But I did find when I was tearing it that sometimes it sort of follows the line of the embossing and you get some sort of odd things happening, but that's okay. It's all part of the fun. So that side I wanted to keep fairly straight because that side is going to be here, and I'm just going to have a glimpse of that wood grain underneath. But on the other side, I'm going to sort of head in more of an angle. So I'll start on the bottom, and I'm just tearing that up slightly more of an angle like that. So, and then reserve that piece as well. We're going to use that later. Okay, so now that can be stuck down. I just want to double check. I want this to just be seen outside of my border here. So that's about right. So I just want a bit of that torn edge showing. So just go ahead and put our glue on that. It's about there. Okay, now this piece, so I would just put glue sort of in the corners. This is the kind of piece where you can end up getting quite gluey because you're trying to hold it and put your glue. And then I would just put a couple of dots on each of these branches that come inwards, or even one dot depending on the size of the branch, just to hold them down. This glue is quite strong, and you actually don't need to put, you don't need to have every piece really stuck. It does hold quite well. And then I just put a few dots or lines around the edge, just thin, So if you put too much on, it's going to ooze out, and then we're going to have it on that DSP, which is not fun. Okay. Carefully flip it over and try and get it lined up roughly where you want it before you drop it down, like so. I really like this Nordic look with the white. It's something I'm often drawn to, and I thought, oh, it would be fun to case that style of card. And I really do like that reindeer fun set, so I might have to get it, I think. Right, so now we're going to stamp our birds. And for this I'm using early espresso ink. And actually some of those little bits are popping up, so I'm just going to put a block on them. Okay, early espresso ink. Oh, so pretty. And now the birds are going to just be coloured in similar colours. So what I've got here is the ivory pen blend and the two colours, the light and the dark, of the pecan pie. Okay, so what I did is started with the ivory. So I want their tummies to be ivory and their heads sort of around the eye. So I'll just lay some colour down. And I might put a bit of that in the wing as well. So that's my lightest colour. Perhaps some down here. Okay, so now I'm going to use the light pecan. And I think I'll use the brush end as well. I could probably zoom in a bit so you can see what I'm doing a bit easier. I'll probably forget to zoom out again though, so please forgive me if I do. I'm just getting a bit of colour on him. And these aren't the traditional colours, of course, for these birds, but I don't think that matters. I think it's quite nice to do something a bit different. And then I'm going to go back and blend those lines to his beak while I'm here. So that's the ivory again. And then I'm going to use the dark for these little detailed lines. Just to put some definition in there. And perhaps a little bit more under there, because it would be in shadow. And same here, all the way around there. Boom. So really I'm just following the lines that are in the stamp for this. Now I'm feeling like the beak is a little bit light. Well, it would be light, I guess, wouldn't it, on these just put a little definition to the beak, and I'm missing a bit in here, so I'll just colour that. And I also want to go over the dark and just blend some of the light so there's graduated shading under there. Yeah, pretty happy with that. So I'm going to do the branch next. What I might do is actually just do the dark for the little lines. And the light for the stems and the rest of the branch. Any trouble colouring and talking today? Okay, pretty pleased with that. Now, I do have a plan for the berries, but I might just quickly colour them. So I plan to use some metallic enamel effects on the berries, but I might just colour them first, just in case some of my effects doesn't quite go all over the whole berry. Then we've at least got some colour there. So you see it's very monochromatic, just keeping with the Nordic theme. I probably could have kept my tummies of the birds a wee bit whiter, couldn't I? That would have helped. So we could use the colour lifter just to lighten those areas on the birds. Okay, so now before I put that enamel effects on, I'm going to cut it out, because if I put it on, I then have to wait for it to dry before I can cut it out. So I'll just quickly run that through. Making sure it's lined up. I don't have to go to all that effort of colouring and then muck it up this part. Sometimes I actually cut things out first because I think, oh, I want to spend a lot of time colouring something and then have the dye move. You've got to start again. Okay, so that's our image ready. Now, the metallic enamel effects, this comes in 3 colours. Or the pack I've just got this pack of 3. So it's red, silver and copper. So very appropriate for Christmas, I thought. So while I'm zoomed in, I haven't seen a lot of people using this, and I'm just sort of working out myself the best way to approach it. And I have found that, so when I've got one that's half hidden, I would do that first. So I'm just going to squeeze gently to get a little bit of this to come out. And then you probably can't see, but as it comes out, it leaves like a little, what would you even call it? It's like like a Hershey's Kiss, how it's got that shape. It kind of comes up, or like an ice cream, that kind of look with a point at the top. So as I'm squeezing, when I'm about to finish it off, I've started going sort of round like that. I'll try and demonstrate. I'm squeezing it out, and then I'm just sort of going round to try and not have that sort of point or tip. So I've just applied it to each of the berries. And just trying to be careful not to disturb the one next door, which is why, having coloured them first, I'm not too worried if I miss a little bit. And also if you turn it round so that you've always got your hand and the nozzle away from the ones you've already done. And someone suggested you could wet your finger maybe and tap it, but I haven't been game enough to try that yet. I should have had an experiment. And you just squeeze it out like that, just a little bit, and go all the way around. So I'll put that one to one side because I have got one ready that's already dried. So I can finish that other one later. So yeah, that's how it dries. So they're very textural. You can know that's quite raised off the paper. I don't know if you can see. I can get that on the right angle. And they're very sparkly, sort of metallic. So I thought that was a fun product. You can also make them into little embellishments by using a silicone mat. I'll just quickly show you. So the silicone mat, being silicone, means that the paint won't stick to it. So you can just create a little ball on there and let it dry. And then once that's dry, you can just use it like an embellishment, just glue it onto your projects. That's another use for it. Okay, now I'm going to attach this, and now I'm going to use dimensionals. I think I am, yes. Just pop a few around. I might use larger ones, birds. And I think I'll do a half a one. On the tail there. Save that for another project. Right, now I might just zoom out a bit again. So have you started your Christmas cards yet? I'm just starting in my classes to introduce a bit of Christmas from next month. Okay, now I wanted to have this sort of tucked. I think I've stuck it on the other way. That's not where it was. Anyway, just put that up to the edge. So I wanted the birds over the white so that you can see them. I felt if they were just on the brown that they would get a bit lost. Right, so I'm going to put them there. And the last thing for the card front is to do the greeting. So for this I'm using Merry Christmas, and I'm going to emboss it in white on black. I did want to do, so on Vicky's card, she had actually stamped, she'd done her white embossing straight on the Country Woods paper. Unfortunately, mine, I don't have a big enough sort of gap in there, and without knowing exactly where the birds were going to go, it was a bit tricky. So I'm doing mine on black card instead. Right, got my Merry Christmas. Now, the Merry Christmas, that's from another set called Greetings of the Season. Just got it here. So I love the fonts in this set. Really, really cool. And you can make up your own. So if you prefer Happy Holidays or Happy Christmas, Merry Christmas, whatever you want to do, that's quite a cool set for that. Okay, so just going to put white powder on there. It's quite good when you're I'm going to be cutting these words apart, but I mounted them on the one block rather than doing them as separate words, even though they're separate stamps. Okay, so then I would heat that and it would become white and glossy and a little bit raised. So here's one I did earlier. And then I'm just going to trim it with my snips. So I just eyeball it. I quite like doing white embossing on black. I think it really pops. And it just seems to suit so many different types of cards. And I think it's quite a modern look. Okay. And then because we've done them separate, we can just slot them in here and just cover some of the branches if we need to. Maybe go like, and actually having them on different angles can be quite fun too. So I might do something like that. And I should have some black dimensionals. So it just means that you don't have that white edge to the dimensional. The edges are black, which is quite good when you're using black card. And when it's thin like this, these are quite thin pieces. So, right. I have that about there. And we've got our Mary. Yeah, something like that. Okay, cool. And I decided not to use any other embellishments because I really want those berries to be the sort of shiny focal point. And so the last thing to do is the inner. I've got one here ready to go. And we're going to bring back in that piece that we cut out of the center of the frame. So I'm going to line that up in the center of my inner. And I'm going to use Pecan Pie, which is the colour of the blends that we coloured the birds with. And I'm just going to use a very light amount of ink. I did one before and I made it too dark. And it's really hard to tell when you're doing this how much you've actually got on there. So less is more in this case. Just get rid of the ink and then start on the centre of the mask. And you'll see how far I can get with just that one amount of ink. I'm just holding it as I go. My aim there was just to get all of those branches sort of done, and then I can go around the edge and just smooth that out. And I still haven't re-inked my brush. I did have a bit of ink on here before though. So, like I say, you don't want it too dark. And then when you lift that off, you've got a lovely decorated inner that you can still write in. You can write over the leaves, branches, but it just has a really cool effect. And if you want to, you can also add a little piece of designer series paper and an offcut from the part we ripped off the white earlier. So I just thought something like that down the side, and I'll probably might just trim that off. I think I'll trim about that line there. So we've always got little scraps left over from different things. It's a great way to use up your scraps to decorate the inner of your card. And I like to try and make it reflective of what's happening on the front. Welcome along, everybody. I can see I've got 4 people. That's fantastic. Afraid I can't see any comments or anything until after the video finishes. I like to just concentrate on the project, but I will reply to any comments afterwards. And now I've got a little bit overhanging the edge there, so I'll just flip it over. Trim that off. So this is going to go inside the card, and I just put a strip of glue along the top. So I hope you like this card, my first video Christmas card for the year. And I'm actually using this same stamp set for my Craftable project. And Craftable is happening on the 5th of October. We're in the Ararimu Hall in Ararimu, which is the Rama Rama off-ramp if you're an Aucklander. And it's a half-day event. Well, half-day, but we do actually start at 10 and finish about 4. And you'll make 4 projects from 4 different demonstrators. And like I say, my project is using this same stamp set and dies. So if you enjoyed this one, I'm sure you would enjoy the Craftable projects as well. And we'd love to have you join us. There's a website, craftable.co.nz, where you can buy your tickets to the event. So that's it for this week. I'll be sending out the tutorial and the video tomorrow to my subscribers. So if you would like to be a subscriber and get the video every week, whether you join live or not, that would be fantastic. You can subscribe via my website, which is confetticardstudio.nz. I'll see you next week. Thanks.